Thanksgiving also brings one of the busiest shopping periods of the year as customers storm retailers for the best deals this Black Friday. Our next guest, Michael Liersch, Wells Fargo Head of Advice and Planning, is here to explain how to avoid getting too caught up in all the deals that may not actually be deals. So good to have you on the show. Talk about some of the strategies that some of these stores use and how we can try and counter them so we can keep a level head and actually buy what we need to buy.
So I think a key psychological strategy a lot of stores are using is excitement, that now we're in this holiday period where we can have some fun after maybe doom scrolling over all the market volatility, or really this idea of buy ahead of inflation. And so what we really need to do is three things: is list it out. So what do we want to purchase? And really focus on needs rather than just wants. The second thing to do is really be careful of cognitive overload. So it's this idea that your brain only has a certain amount of capacity to take in information. So don't just go online and scroll through the sales. Really be intentional about what you need and only set aside certain periods of time to do it so you don't get overwhelmed. Because when you get overwhelmed, you end up buying things in impulse rather than in terms of what you really want. The last thing I'd mention is have a little fun. Don't make shopping this season all about budgeting and saving and making sure you're buying needs and not wants. Set aside a little money to have a little fun, because when you have a little fun, it actually makes you more likely to save in those areas where you really need to. So those are the three things I'd highlight to really watch out for when you're shopping this holiday season.
Of course, we used to have to go to the store, brick and mortar, but now, based on my email box, Black Friday is already underway and you don't have to leave your couch. Is it best, given the tips you just laid out, to stay home and shop online versus going to the store where you might be tempted by some impulse buys?
Well, what I would say is, as long as you're listing it out, really going into the store gives you that ability to pause. Sometimes when you shop exclusively online, and we've all done this, the impulse buying becomes a bit habitual because you're in a rush and you just click, 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 put it in my basket, purchase without thinking about it. So actually going to the store, going to the mall, it gives you that level of intentionality, especially if you go with other people, because they can help spot check you. Are you really buying those things that are very useful or that you can really give to other people or to give to yourself? Rather than are you making those impulse buys? So you can go with a shopping buddy, a shopping partner, and they can keep you in check.
I can't think of anything worse than being someone's shopping buddy during Black Friday.
It's fun. It's fun. I have shopping buddies.
Oh no. I mean, I literally remember pulling into a Best Buy parking lot and seeing two people fighting on the parking lot ground. I just kept going. I was like, I'm not doing this. So, I mean, we've clearly come a long way from everyone sort of frenzying into one place. Now we've moved to online shopping. But what about some of these sales that are coming earlier and earlier? How do you really determine whether you should be sort of buying now versus really on like Cyber Monday and sort of pacing yourself and not sort of jumping on the first deal that jumps out at you?
So this is where holding yourself accountable is so important. And when you think about that, setting aside that budget when you're online shopping, because you're right, Black Friday has already started at a lot of retailers. And to your point, it just continues on. So making sure that you have that budget, you have those dollar amounts that you can actually spend without dipping too far into your savings, without risking your future in 2023, it's really critical. The second thing I would highlight is, again, make sure you're focusing on needs. Get lists from your friends and family. It's really passé. It's out to try to surprise people with your gifts. So really just ask them, what is it that you need? And then use that to do your online shopping. Try to find those deals based on what your family and your friends really want and what you want, rather than making guesses and then sending those surprise gifts where they open the box and they pretend they like it. That is not something I'd suggest doing when you're online shopping. The other thing I would mention really quickly is make sure when you're online shopping to look at the return policies. That's something that a lot of people fail to do. Make sure you can return it and look at how many days you have to return it so that you don't pass that date and then you own it unintentionally.
Oh, I've been caught by that at Best Buy a few times over the years. We started this conversation by mentioning doom scrolling. For those that don't know the term, what is it and why are 50% of men currently doing that?
So doom scrolling is really this idea of getting on your digital device and really spending a lot of time, in fact, hours a day, just looking at your investments, looking at market indices, and seeing whether they're going up or down. And that's particularly dangerous, especially in times like this, because we're all a bit fearful of the uncertainty in front of us. So what I'd recommend is really put that phone away, put the phone down, focus on your goals, what you're trying to accomplish. And that's really where, I know we talk about shopping buddies, but having a spouse, a partner, a friend, a professional really help you focus on what matters most, not necessarily just the market ups and downs, but what you're trying to accomplish with your money is key to making the best investment decisions, so that then you don't just trade online after doom scrolling, which sometimes makes you follow or chase returns rather than being proactive and buying when markets are down and selling when it makes sense for you to do so.
Now, lots of good tips there. No one has any excuse for saying they didn't know better. A big thank you to Michael Liersch for joining us this afternoon. Have a good Thanksgiving.